from now on, and since I have a baby, as I do every work with the inner child, I have a felt experience of how vulnerable we were, especially in that moment of our life. And of course, I think of myself as a baby and as I grew as a child, but I think of you also. Such a vulnerability, such purity. It's very touching when I come in contact with that. Welcome to the inner space. This is for you if you need encouragement to be more yourself and explore your own path. Maybe because you feel different, too sensitive, or just not able to do things as everyone else seems to. There is a way, and it's your unique way. I'm Gloria Jansen. I am a coach, a healing artist, and a surfer. I am here to help you ride the waves of life, work, and business to find that deeper alignment with your creative and sensitive soul. If this feels like you, I invite you to know yourself better, feel all the emotions, and trust yourself, so you experience the freedom and fulfillment of being and doing you. Subscribe now to catch the next wave to the inner space, where authenticity sets you free. Welcome in this end of the year review. It's end of 2025. We are in December as I record this episode, and you listen to it at the end of the month, maybe beginning of January. How do you feel about the year that has ended? If you've been following me for a while, you know that I like to ask you a few questions to get into feeling what this year was about for you. I like to do it at the end of the year for the next year and at the end of the year for the year that just has passed. I do that every year for a few years now, and every time it's, for me at least, a word that comes up and that sums up what the year is going to be about for the next year and what the year has been about. If you've listened to my review for 2024, it's one of I think the episode of The Inner Space. I will put the link in the show notes. And it was special because as I recorded it, it was end of November and there was still 1 month to go. And it was a very special month because during that month, I gave birth to my first baby, my son. And just to show you how incredible life is, in this episode, I had told you the word for me for 2024 was self-trust, deepening my self-trust. And that the year had brought many moments that I describe in this episode to anchor more self-trust, whether it's in how I decided to move from Boston to Miami, and the fact that I decided to do a home birth. That's just a few examples. Traveling, being pregnant to Kenya, with many different perspectives on it. So every time I had to go back to myself, center myself, and trust myself. And that has been 2024 for me. Self-trust is a big word for me. I've done many episodes about that. Highly encourage you, whether on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast, or my website, to check. It's a key fundament for me to live a life that feels like you, where you feel at peace, where you feel guided by your soul, and things feel smoother. So it's something I work on, I would say, every year, but last year was really around that topic. And if you've been listening to the episodes after, you know I told you about like the birth preparation and then giving birth, so episodes 17 and 18. And that was really the final month. December was so much about self-trust, because as I gave birth, if I didn't have that key ingredient, nothing would have gone as I would have liked to. And it required so much self-trust to make the birth happen. I don't want to say more. I believe these episodes are very powerful. So listen to them, even though you are not pregnant, even though it's not part of your journey, maybe you're a man. There are many insights around how you can prepare for a new project in your life to happen, and then how to be there as it is happening with the metaphor of birth. So 2025 now, what has been the word for me for this year? And I'm curious about your understanding of the word now that I say it, and after I will tell you more the story. For me, it has been about pride. Pride has entered my life in a bigger way this year. I didn't know at all that would be the word for 2025. This year was so much unknown because I never had been a mother. I never had a baby in my life. Our family grew suddenly and it impacted our entire life. So I had no idea if I would like it, if not, how I would deal with having my business, having a child. There were so many question marks that, wow, I had really a hard time sensing in what would be this year about. So many changes. But pride is the result. And as I share you that, of course, I encourage you to feel into your sensation for 2025. Maybe it's a word, maybe it's an image. Everyone is different. Maybe it's a lesson, maybe it's a quote. Maybe you need more time after this episode to dive into it. If you can, of course, I know you will use your brain, but also feel your heart and your body. Be open. You can ask also whether it's spirit, your guides, whatever you believe, yourself, your deeper self, nature, to give you some insights. And it might come in your dreams or as a word that someone says to you when you are drinking a coffee or you go, I don't know, buy bread and you hear something. So life will deliver the message if you ask. So pride. What is pride for you? And I will give you my definition now. It's, I believe, a different perspective than what you might have now. Pride is, I think many people are quite critical towards pride. It's not so much something that we say we have. And I share it with you, but that's something between me and myself. I share it with you, of course, to help you. But if I would not do a podcast, it would be just a sensation of pride inside of me. I don't have to say it out loud. Pride is the result of self-trust in action. What do I mean with that? Is it's a natural unfolding for me between what I experienced last year, where I decided to trust myself, but I didn't know yet. It was more based on an intuition, a sensation, a desire, a dream, but I didn't know yet what would be the result. You sense that's the path, and you decide to trust yourself, and you go onto that path with that inner trust. And it's only after that you have the confirmation. And when that kicks in, the sensation that came up, the emotion that came up for me was pride. So I look at myself, the decisions I've taken last year, the decisions and the moves, more than just decisions I've done this year. I'm like, wow, this was not easy, and you've done it, and in the most beautiful way you could. So pride as the result of trusting yourself. Self-trust is a big topic for many of my clients. It's so subtle, especially when your brain is super, super active. It's like a whisper, a sensation, an image, just a sensing that's the path. And when you follow it after, there is pride that kicks in. And it's interesting because I need to make like bridges with other years of my life where I feel it was exactly the same that happened. And I have to bring you back like not 10 years ago, but 8 years ago. For me, like the year 2017, 2018, 2019 were very really life-changing years in my life, as this year has been in a different way, because at that time it's really all my life fall apart. That's why when people come to me and tell me they're in divorce procedure, they are or have lived a burnout, they have experienced toxic relationships, they feel lost, they don't know what's the next step, and their entire life is like an empty field and everything needs to be reconstructed. And they have this desire of creating something that really feels aligned with their heart and that they truly want and desire and need. Then I'm like, yes, I hear you. I've been there and I exactly know the emotions you're going through. Of course, I have a different experience and story than you, but I know what you've been going through and what you are going through. I know exactly those moments of doubts, of deep loss of energy, the intensity of the questioning, and this deep desire and need of something that is really alive and meaningful to make moves forward. And that's something that has happened for me, as you've heard, like 7 years ago, approximately. Those were very intense years of my life. And in that moment, there were many steps I've done where I needed to trust myself. I did it, and once everything fell in place, and it was 2020, at the beginning of the year, I was like, wow. I felt really pride in the sense of also gratitude of everything I had been able to reconstruct from that blank page. I see really a building that has been deconstructed, and there is something new that needed to be constructed. But I was so, yeah, so happy for everything, how I had turned around things. And now 2025 is different because I didn't change job, didn't change business, I didn't change partner. I moved city last year, but mostly what changed is first it grew inside of me, which was a baby, being pregnant, and then it grew outside of me, and that was my baby, and that I had to, of course, support, and I'm going to keep on supporting for the first year of his life. And that was such an intense year for me in the lows and in the highs. It's so special for me because I'm recording this episode on the day of his birthday. So you can imagine how I'm connecting back. And I'm like, wow, it feels almost yesterday that I started labor and that he was born. It's something very recent because it's only 1 year ago, but at the same time, it feels so far away because this year was so intense. So I take a moment to pause, and that's the energy I give to you through my words. Take a pause, see who you've been. If you've listened to the coaching session of Aline, it's episode 21. There is a moment where I tell her exactly that as we come to the end. It's November, as I did the session with her. I'm like, if you want to open the next chapter, see who you've been this year. And that's what I'm doing for myself also at the end of the year, and what I'm inviting you to do. Who have you been this year? Who have you been this year? I thought, how can I tell you more about my year? I could spend a lot of time sharing so many insights, but I choose one angle is how did motherhood impact my coaching business? And again, you don't need to be a mother, you might be a father, you might be none of them, but I'm sure you will find insights because what I've developed this year is beyond, yeah, and that experience is also about being a human being on this earth. If you've listened to my episode about pregnancy, that I described being pregnant a destabilizing experience. And it's a great preparation for the postpartum because it feels really a continuation as you have a child. At least it was for me, this destabilizing experience. It was destabilizing for my business. Again, I refer you to that episode. It's full of insights also for your own business. And here I am with a child. I had decided at the beginning of this year after the birth to take a break. And then I decided to restart slowly with clients who knew already I was coming back. But I decided to work half-time. So this year, mostly I've worked half-time instead of full-time, what I was doing before, because it's so precious. I think I don't have to explain it. You make a baby, you don't want to not spend time with him. So I decided really to make him my priority this year. I have to be very clear about that. But at the same time, I really experienced that tension inside of me of, hey, I have a work and a business that I love. I'm truly passionate about being a coach, being a healing artist, growing every day, helping my clients to grow. Like I have big desires for my profession. And I put it by side in a sense, or at least it was not top one priority as it might have been until now. even though I have to say that I have also other priorities that are as important in my life, which is about how I live, being able to enjoy life, not only my work. That's also how I support people, my clients. This tension between you want to spend time with your children, but you also want to grow yourself. And then finding some space to breathe just for yourself. Your relationship to time changes drastically, especially when the baby is so small. So now when I hear someone tell me I don't have time, I have a very different perspective on it. And there is something when I coach my clients, I'll tell them about, seeing the small steps, doing the small steps. And this is really the experience I've been having this year. To give you a very concrete example, before having a baby, I used to exercise every day. I would say around almost every day, maybe 6 days out of 7. I'm not strict with that, but half an hour per day, once, maybe 1 hour, but a routine to make my body move. And this has just not been possible anymore. So there were days I didn't exercise. I tried 4 days a week, sometimes 5, to do like 15 minutes of exercise or 10 minutes. And this was huge for me. Is okay, you want something that is important in your life. I know for me it's important, my physical well-being, it's also a priority. So 10 minutes, create time for that. And I think about a client I had who also was in the similar phase I am now. And she said, like, yeah, it's hard to find 1 hour, having a baby. I'm like, 100%. But 10 minutes is doable. And I wish at that time I would have told her the experience I'm having right now, which is set smaller goals. Otherwise, it's not doable when you have such a small child. So if your life is super busy and you want a new project to come into your life, can you spend 5 or 10 minutes per day on it? Don't set big goals, because otherwise after you're like, oh, I'm not moving forward. But for me, like saying every day I'm doing 10 minutes, I'm like, yay, that was great. And don't tell me you don't have these 10 minutes, because we all know how easily we scroll on social media and then whoops, suddenly 15 minutes are gone. Maybe half an hour is gone, maybe more. So I could not tell myself, oh, I didn't have 10 minutes today, because it's not true. Let's be honest. So that's the honest check with yourself. So first insight for me with motherhood and how it impacted my business, but beyond also, that's an example for my life, is my relationship to time and prioritizing my task and what I do in my business. I've been super happy to have my assistant that I had found as I was at the end of my pregnancy. I had shared in the episode. And without her, I would have not been able at all to do what I've done this year. So seek support. That changes massively. If you feel you yourself don't have enough time to make your project move forward, seek support. So yeah, new relationship to time that I invite you also to reflect on. The massive shift, second shift, and it's not second in terms of order, probably the first one I should have shared, is comes from my heart, is being in contact with such purity. If you have a baby in your life or close by, or you remember, you know what I mean. Like a baby who comes on the earth is just so pure. The energy is so pure and clean. It's incredible. When you're in touch with that, from the very first days, I was feeling also the vulnerability, which is almost scary, because the child depends so much on you, is so vulnerable. So it gives you back a huge responsibility, and it's not negative as I say that. I was so in touch with that you become super aware in how you behave, how you react, because you cannot like be angry with a baby. It's hard. Of course you can, but when you come back to your heart and to what this soul is about, you're just in touch with that purity and then with your love. And again, I'm not idealizing that, because of course there are moments when you're extremely tired, when the baby's crying, you don't understand it. You are not in that love. But in itself, if you are calm and you are well, You can be in touch with something super pure that reminds us one part that we have inside of us. And yeah, shifting that perspective around vulnerability, deep vulnerability. And you can imagine, and it brings me to my second point, which are super related, is I've completely re-seen my perspective on the inner child. As you've heard from some coaching episodes, I'm thinking about the coaching session with Annalie, and we worked around the inner child in that call, but in so many of the coaching sessions, actually. One that you are going to hear next with Lara is also with her inner child at some point. And as I see my baby, as I imagine the next year how he's going to grow, I so understand us, and I think more specifically about my coaching sessions with my client who come with certain challenges, past traumas, emotions that are stuck, patterns, because our parents have such a huge impact on us when we are children. And after we are, as adults, responsible, of course, to shift what we need to shift. But it's big. It's big because basically the baby that comes on the earth, if you believe in reincarnation, has, of course, his soul experience, though it's a blank page, really, in the sense of purity, and it's growing this human experience in that moment through his major influences, who are his parents. And you can imagine that I am a very self-aware mother with all the tools I have, with who I am. I'm very conscious in how I react. I'm like, okay, that's what I'm signaling to him. That's what he might integrate if I do things that way. And I read actually a very nice book that I highly recommend from Zoe, is her first name. I can't remember the last name, but you will find her easily. Motherkind. This book helped me to decide how I want to be with my children. You might be a parent from older children and you still have that time, and you have the power because your children mostly imitate you. So you have the power to be in a different way so they can be in a different way, at least as they are smaller. After, they will do their own path. So from now on, and since I have a baby, as I do every work with the inner child, I have a felt experience of how vulnerable we were, especially in that moment of our life. And of course, I think of myself as a baby and as I grew as a child, but I think of you also. Such a vulnerability, such purity. It's very touching when I come in contact with that. So here is our responsibility. If you have a young child, you have the possibility to grow yourself, to help him, her grow. Or if you have children around you, you are the role model. And I say that without putting any pressure on you, because you are trying to be the best person you can. So it should not bring pressure as I say that. Even though, of course, we ourselves do it to ourselves. So I am in touch even more with my clients' vulnerability and with this felt experience of how they experience life as a baby, as a young child, and so on. And the third point that I wanted to bring in is about intuition. I've worked on my intuition in a very funny way this year, and I have to tell you the story because I believe it's a funny way to approach major modalities that we all need to acquire and work around, at least in my perspective of the world. Intuition is a key element. As I talked to you about self-trust, they go hand in hand, you imagine. And as I told you, like, my son has been my priority this year. My business is still super important to me and will again take more space, but for now, at least for this year, it was my child. And I've been working on my intuition daily. Usually, I like to say to my clients, try to take smaller situation to practice the tool I give you. For example, I help a lot of people to be connected to their body, and I tell them, okay, open the fridge, depending on their human design, do this and do that, so that you can practice the connection with your body to choose what you're going to cook tonight. That's a very simple example. But if you practice that daily, then the moment that your intuition is really super important for bigger life decisions, you've practiced, so you have that connection to yourself. And I've done that with my intuition. Why? Because a baby doesn't speak with words, at least. So you are constantly in touch with your baby and like wondering, what is going on? What does he need? Sleep, food, what's happening? Is the baby sick? And constantly you are relying on that connection to another being and sensing what is the message right here, right now. It's a trial and error process. You get to practice every day, many times through the day, which is fantastic, even though sometimes you are like, I can't anymore. And there was one specific way I had to be super aware is when I was pregnant, I heard about potty training from birth. What does it mean? Basically, we as Western societies, because we have diapers, we use our babies and young children to poo and pee in a diaper. Like that's very much common and admitted. I didn't know before that there was another path. Now you know if you didn't. It is possible. Actually, it makes sense. Babies don't especially want to poo on themselves or pee on themselves. We are creating this disconnection from signaling it as we use the diaper because we're like, oh, he or she has the diaper. But actually, I decided after the first month, I was like, okay, now I feel ready to try it. And it's basically based on the signals that you usually check for sleep. You should check the signals for food, for cold, warm, anything. And then you just add the signal for poo and pee, which means you have just another thing to be aware of. And that requires so much presence because you can imagine that sleep is okay, she just slept. I look at books. I know that, I don't know, newborn goes to sleep every 45 minutes. Okay, he just or she just ate. So I think so you have some more structure, I would say. Pee and poo, yes, maybe, oh, he just ate. That could be something. But like the child is growing, so it changes, then he or she adds solids and so on. So I introduced that and I was super alert, and there were moments we missed it, but many moments we catched it. And it's so subtle. I always say intuition is a whisper. It needs your presence. I can't remember a moment I was like, does he need to go? And then afterwards, like, oh, that was so clear. Now, afterwards, you feel and see the intuition, but in that moment, it's so subtle. And that was so great for me to practice very regularly. And I'm still practicing because I'm still potty training my child. Of course, I tell that for those who are curious, it's not for every pee. He still wears a diaper because that would be too much also for him. But as much as possible without pressure and trying to like succeed at any cost. Now it should still be something that both enjoy and that feels doable and so on. But that's the funny way I've practiced my intuition is with that, but beyond with the relationship to my child. So those are the things I wanted to share that I've developed this year, and those are just a glimpse, but I believe it's already a good start. And the hardest practice, I would say, to share you the behind the scenes, I've shared it also on my Instagram account if you follow me, Gloria Jensen Coaching. The hardest practice is the one I always talked about before to my clients that I said, just don't expect from yourself in that situation, which is there is one thing, and I give all the tools and the approaches and the support to my clients. I tell them there is one moment where they might not feel effective, and that's fine. It's when you are tired. So I tell them when you are tired, of course, you can use the tools I share, but what's the best solution is to sleep. So when you're tired, try to rest, find a way to rest. That's the priority. And after, you can go back to the tools I've shared with you. That's what I used to say. But this year, because I want to say, but I still have, as I record this episode, a baby that really sleeps not well during the night. Like I experienced many sleep interruptions for almost a year now, which is a true marathon without the resources, I would say. I've been constantly tired. Like as I record this episode, as I all the time, tiredness has been part of every day. Moments which it was bigger, moments where it was less, especially when we had support from our families, or some nights were better than others. But tiredness has been part of every day. So what I used to tell to my client, just go to sleep, is just not possible. I go to bed as early as possible, sleep as much as I can, but I don't have control over that, except everything I'm putting in place to support him. But I need to go with his own rhythm. I can't force that. So when I say to my clients, the mindset work, the emotional work, it's so much harder when you're tired. And now I won't be saying that anymore to my clients in the sense of, yes, of course, if you're tired, try to rest. But there are moments where you need to move even if you're tired. And I had to expand my abilities in terms of mindset, in terms of dealing with my emotions to a level that I think I'm truly going to understand next year, but to a level you can't imagine. And I want to give you concrete examples. Let's say my baby is waking up another time in the night, and as I hear him, I'm like, no, I just want to sleep, please. Then I wake up, and then you can be super upset, and then you're like, you want to shout maybe on your child, and then it's more so like, breathe in, breathe out. I go to him, I take care of him, and as I come to him, I'm like, I want to come from a state as calm as possible, because if I'm not calm, how can he calm down? So I had to do the work myself so that I can best support him. And I try even to shift my perspective on, oh no, how horrible is it to again wake up? Because that's really the body screaming sleep. And then mindset shift was like, these moments are so precious. In, I hope, a few months, maybe a few years, you will miss all these moments that you had with your child. Maybe not, I'm saying that, but it could be all these moments like holding him being so small, being so grateful for me supporting him. So I shifted from the mindset from, oh my God, I really don't want to go. I'm so tired. I want to sleep. I can't anymore. To this is a precious moment that is going to end at some point. Just be with him and calm down and enjoy the moment. It's not something that I reach every time, but every time I practice going into that. That's one example of how I've supported myself. I don't know if you imagine if you've had a child that didn't sleep, or if you are super tired, you might have a glimpse of the impact tiredness has on your mood and on your being. So I had to expand my abilities. Also emotionally, the same, exactly the same exercises so that I can calm down and be the best way I could in that moment with my child. And that also in terms of business. Of course, there are many moments where I'm like, okay, don't put any pressure on yourself or expectations. I would have liked to do more in terms of business this year, in the sense of I wanted to create new offers. There are so many things because I've shifted so deeply that I wanted to do. Like if I would not have been a mom, I would have created so many new offers, a full refresh of my website, like many things that I wanted to do, but just I didn't have nor the time nor the energy. But still, I've worked in expanding, still being tired, and which means that I could have done nothing. I could have decided to just say, okay, this year I'm not going to do anything with my business and I'm just too tired, which is okay if you think that. But I went back to the calling inside, and also, and that's a key information, sometimes we believe when we are tired, we better not show up and do the things because we are not giving our best energy. Here, I challenge you, and that's something I've learned. When you are in your soul gifts, in your passion, in your talent, even if you're tired, you will shine and impact others. I can repeat that. When you're in your gifts, talents, passion, even if you are tired or you feel your energy is not as good, you are going to impact others because that's your path. Like that's what you are here for. So, yes, still please show up, even when you are tired or you feel it's maybe not the best energy. And that has been a big learning for me. And so many times maybe I was tired, but then I did show up and then I was so happy to be back into something I love. And then I had more energy at the end. So sometimes what's something you believe is either you don't have the energy to do it, maybe it's going to give you the energy you are looking for. From many of my coaching episodes or even episodes generally of the podcast, I talk also a lot about energy, your energy, how it operates, how it can support you. So that's an insight also around that. So I feel that's already a good enough perspective on some of the skills I've developed this year. And maybe it helps you to understand also the pride feeling I have of I showed up in my business. I was the best mother I could for my child. And also some of the investments I've done. Probably I will talk about it in other episodes, but I did some big decisions in terms of the support I'm receiving, which is also a big step in terms of investment, even though I'm like not in the best financial moment of my business because I slowed down, which is like a conscious decision. That's also a situation many of my clients can find themselves, or you might be, where you're like, okay, maybe it's not the best moment to invest. And then it's like, well, in these moments is where do you take your decision from? Do you connect to that trust, to that intuition? And if it says you yes, do you go? Or do you stay in fear and, oh, we'll see next year? Which decision do we take when we are in these moments of expansion, but still hard? Because this year has been absolutely beautiful, but also super hard. Like these sleep interruptions, I could speak about it so much. It has shaped my entry in motherhood. I believe parents that sleep have a very different experience than parents that don't sleep or mothers, because in many parts of the world, they take over most of it. So, big year of expansion. Many things have shifted for me, and I know that next year it's going to be influenced, more than influenced, imprinted, marked by all the experience I've had so far. And I know a big year is ahead. So if I sense into my 2026, I know a big expansion is there. So the immense expansion I've been living this year more quietly, I've shared a bit as I went through, but mostly inner shifts is going to have a ripple effect outside. So stay tuned. Follow me if you don't, because there will be things coming out next year that you will be looking forward to, I'm sure. So, inner expansions afterwards brings outer expansion. And this has been this year that for me, and the next year is going to be the beginning of something new, I know, for myself. So, this was a bit, again, a more personal episode around my journey around this year. I probably could have told much more. I hope it was insightful for you, or it just helps you to connect a bit more with who I am and my path. Where did our paths crossed this year? In the coaching session with Aline, episode 21, I shared with you that this year is a closing year. So things are ending so that we can begin a new cycle next year. What ended for you this year? Or maybe which seeds have been planted? Because this year has been already a new year, I would say, for me in terms of new beginnings of motherhood. But of course, I've closed a chapter in itself, and the chapter which is that of not being a mother and having a complete different life before. So, new beginning means also closing with something. Maybe it's not visible outside, but you can ask yourself, what kind of behavior do you want to leave? That could be a good question, yes. What kind of behavior do you want to close and end with this year? So that you make space for new next year. And what would it look like? You know me, you know that I love to have feedback, your review of 2025. My clients know that when they are not my clients anymore, I love to have still news from them. I feel we create such an intimate relationship that I want to see how life unfolds for them. And it's the same for you as a listener. I love to know you more as you listen to my words and what you keep from what I've shared today. And to close this episode, I want to propose you just a little exercise to connect with your body. If you are watching me on video, I recommend you to close your eyes. So don't do it when you're driving. Find a place where you are in silent, where you're not going to be disturbed. And as my clients know it, we just start with feeling our body. Maybe you want to sit down, maybe you want to stand, you can. Maybe you want to lie down. Breathe in, breathe out. Your breath is this connection between the outside and the inside. Maybe you just feel into your body. How do you feel right here, right now? What did land from everything I said today? What do you want to keep? And I want you to consciously feel into your body. Maybe you want to put a hand on your heart, if that helps you. And as you feel your hand on your heart, on your chest, intentionally connect to that part of your body. You can thank yourself for who you've been this year, for all the steps, through the hard moments, through the beautiful moments. Honor, acknowledge who you have been. As you thank yourself through this practice, now you can ask your heart, what does it need for the next days or the next weeks? These precious weeks of transition between the end of 2025 and the beginning of 2026. What would be a beautiful gift you could do to yourself? And as you receive the answer, maybe it's a sensation. If nothing comes up in the moment, it's fine. It might come up later. I just do the energy work with you, which is putting yourself in a bubble. It's really almost my hands are going from your head all around you until your feet. And it's almost if my hand would be paint and I paint a blue line all around you, around your body, to at the same time honor who you've been, integrate the learning of this year, and create some calmness and some peace with what has happened in acceptance. And I feel this is it. I won't add any other layer because first, that's the first step to then after make space for the next chapter. But now it's not yet the moment, at least as I do this recording. Maybe tomorrow it will be. But as you listen to it, that's what is asked and shared with me for you to close this year in the most honorable and peaceful way. And I activate love from your hand in your heart. It can be the color you want. I see red. And the red color is expanding with every breath in, every breath out, in your entire body. So you have this line, blue line, vibrant blue line all around you. And inside, it's full of love. It expands until it touches this line all around you. So your entire body is bathing into love. Giving that love to yourself. It's a big thank you for this year, for yourself. And now I invite you to do the 3 big, deeper breaths in and out. In and out. And one last one. If it's okay, you can put your hand away from your heart and just enjoy the energy you are now in. And slowly reopen your eyes, look around you, where you are. Feel your 2 feet on the ground if you've been lying on a bed. Ground yourself, drink water, and this energy will stay with you beyond listening to me right here, right now. This energy of love and this beautiful blue around you to honor who you've been and bringing the calmness as well. And I asked myself, as I asked you, like, what do you need for the next days? And I'm curious what came up for you. Share with me by email if you want, or on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you want. Private message if you desire. And I know for me it's really that, taking the time to pause and look all what I've lived this year to integrate it, because now I know, not only now, but I know this is going to be helpful for many people in the next years, and it might be the same for you. So I wish you a beautiful festive season. Einen guten Rutsch ins neue Jahr, as we say in German. So it's a great slide into the new year. And I see you in 2026. Bye bye. Thank you for joining the inner space. Make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, or share it with someone who might need exactly this encouragement. And until next time, keep exploring your inner space, where authenticity sets you free.